Okay, like I was saying, I was talking about the possible solutions to unemployment. I've spoken about the Skills Development Act as a rule that the businesses needs to follow in training the people that lack skills in the business. And also we spoke about the literacy programs, which is aimed to equip unemployed people with skills, and the promotion of entrepreneurship creates job opportunities. And lastly, the Employment Equity Act ensures job opportunities for previously disadvantaged workers. So when you're talking about an Employment Equity Act, it's actually a law that the government put in place that businesses needs to prioritize the previously disadvantaged people. So when you're talking about the previously disadvantaged people, we'll be talking about the Black people. And remember, I always say that South Africa is not all about, okay, I'm Black, you colored, the moment you're not white, you are Black. So the government needs to prioritize the Black people when they are looking for job, because those are the set of people that were previously disadvantaged during apartheid, and the government wants them being prioritized. You need to choose them first. Sorry, you need to employ them so that their standard of living can actually change. And number three, we have another contemporary socioeconomic issue, which is low productivity. But firstly, before I speak about low productivity, before I speak about low productivity, let's look at the definition of productivity on page 16. Productivity refers to the relationship between the input, which is the factors of production, and the output, which is the goods and services within the business. So when you're talking about productivity, we're talking about you putting the factors of production, we put in labor, we put in entrepreneurship, we put in raw materials, we're looking at human being, what effort do they put together before products or services can be rendered. So the input is what is being put together in the business, and the output will be the product or the services that have been rendered. So one of the problems we have in South Africa as a socio-economic issue is that we have low productivity levels in South Africa. South Africa experiences low productivity levels because of what? Lack of education. Can you see that education is the key? Lack of experiences, and it actually leads to low productivity levels. Skilled employees often leave the country in search for a greater opportunities abroad. So we lack skills. Even the little number of people that we have that has all those skills prefers to leave South Africa and go and work somewhere else so that they can have greater opportunity and they can earn more. You see people, they go to China. Those are teachers that left South Africa to go and teach in China. They went to South Korea to go and teach so that they can earn more, which means skilled people are leaving the country to go and look for a greener pasture. And we also have poverty restrict access to education. Poverty restrict access to education, because the more education you have, the more productive you can have. But we see some people, okay, they couldn't go to school, they couldn't have access to quality education because of poverty or because of being poor. So we're going to look at what the business can do to increase the productivity level in the next page. The number 4 problem that we have is poverty. Poverty and unemployment, they're actually siblings, because when you don't have a job, definitely you will be poor. You won't be able to put food on your table. Poverty is the inability of someone to provide for their basic needs. So when you're talking about basic needs, we'll be talking about people that cannot put food on their table, shelter, and clothing. And when you're talking about food, we're not talking about, okay, I can buy bread. That is not a balanced diet. So we're talking about a proper food on the table, people that do not have shelter, people that do not have clothing. I'm very sure you're watching in the news. You could see the government is trying to take some people into shelter, people that lives on the street, people that are living below the bread line. And when you're talking of below the bread line, now we'll be looking at, okay, maybe people that cannot even afford 20 rand in a day to themselves, or affording 30 rand to themselves in a day. And that is the level of poverty we are experiencing in South Africa. We have a lot of people that cannot provide food for themselves. We have a lot of people that cannot provide shelter for themselves. You see them on the street, sleeping under the garage, or sleeping under the tunnel, or sleeping under the bridge. And we have people that cannot afford what? A proper clothing. You see them sleeping and just taking one old blanket, scratching in the bin to look for what to eat. That is the level of poverty we are talking about. And when you look at your textbook, it also speaks about not having a proper flushing toilet, not having a proper sanitation. That is the level of poverty we actually talking about. So what is the effect of poverty on the business? Poor people cannot fully participate in the economy due to the lack of money. When you're talking about fully participating, they cannot buy from the business. There is no way they can promote or actually add to economic growth because they are poor. They cannot fully participate in the economy. Number two, lack of income leads to poor nutrition and lower productivity. So we have people that do not have income, leads to poor nutrition, and at the same time, it leads to lower productivity in the business. Poverty leads to the depletion of natural resources. When you're talking about that word, poverty leads to the depletion of natural resources. People actually do things that are illegal to find to find a living or to sustain a living. So we're talking about poverty leading to the depletion of natural resources. Sometimes, let me give you a practical example of that. Sometimes you see people, they don't have jobs and they carry out illegal stuff. Example would be some people actually go for fishing. You cannot go for fishing if you don't have a license. But people go for illegal fishing. And that is a depletion of natural resources. They catch all those fish and actually sell them illegally. And they're not paying tax, they're not doing anything. And at the same time, it leads to the reduction of natural resources. And even people steal coal, people go inside the mine, we will have illegal miners. People do a lot of illegal things because they are poor. And it leads to what? The depletion of natural resources. So when you're talking of depletion, it means it finishes the natural resources. And at the same time, high poverty levels increases what? The crime rate. That we always know. On the business, poverty level on the business. We have poor people, they're breaking into the business, they shoplift in the business. We have all these cash ads. We have breaking into in an ATM. They even go into the shop to loot goods or products, all because we have high level of poverty in South Africa. It have a huge impact on the business, and a business that has been established in an area that has a lot of people that are so poor, there's no way the business can be successful because people will always breaking into that shop, or because they cannot afford to buy it and they have to survive, and that is why they actually breaking into those shops and stealing from the shop owners. And yeah, and we have number 5 problem, which is inequality. Another problem we have is what we refer to as inequality in South Africa. When you're talking about inequality in South Africa, it is a word everybody knows. Inequality refers to unequal or imbalanced distribution of income and asset between what? The inhabitants of the country. That word inhabitants can also be seen as what? The citizens of the country. There is a gap between the rich and the poor in South Africa, and that is what we refer to as inequality. So when we're talking about inequality, we have some people that are extremely rich and we have people that are extremely poor, and that is what we refer to as inequality. So people that are rich can buy from the business. People that are rich can participate in economic growth. People that are rich can afford to buy anything at any time. But we have majority that are poor, which are the black people. Black people, We cannot afford to buy all those products in the shop, and it's having an impact on the business because the majorities are the black. So if we have a lot of people that are poor amongst the black people, there is no way they can participate in the economic activities of South Africa. So what can the business do to minimize inequality in South Africa? Because when you're talking about inequality, it's not something we're going to say, how can the business stop inequality? Inequality has been a contemporary socio-economic issue since the time of apartheid, where there is a gap between the rich and the poor. There is a margin between the rich and the poor. So what can the business do? So the solution to inequality is what we refer to as inclusivity. What does that mean? The business needs to make use of inclusivity, which means giving everyone an equal opportunity in the economy. So what is the aim of inclusivity for the business? And after that, I'll be rounding up on inequality for today. So what is the aim of inequality, and what is the aim of inclusivity? What can the business do? The aim is to include and make use of all human resources in the organization. Businesses must ensure that they follow fair employment. Can you see? A fair employment process or practice. If you want to if you want to close the gap between the rich and the poor, you actually need to make use of a fair employment practice. And using inclusivity actually means that the business needs to make use of what we spoke about, which is the Employment Equity Act. You need to promote the black people so that they can be at the forefront, and at the same time, they need to be empowered so that they will be able to participate in the activities of the country. So fair employment practice, putting the black people first, giving them the first opportunity, considering them first in terms of when they employ for a job, so that they can have job, and at the same time they can also participate in the economy and reduce poverty levels. And number 3, the business needs to use inclusivity in redressing the imbalances of the past. So when you're talking about imbalances of the past, we're talking about inequality of the past, because during the time of apartheid, we have some people, a certain group of people raised that way here, and we have other people that are just below them. So the business needs to promote inclusivity to redress the imbalance. So the business needs to make sure that they promote the black people so that at least they can be measuring close to where other races are. And that is to redress the imbalances of the past. So when you're talking about the past, it's actually talking about the time of apartheid. And at the same time, the business needs to prevent gender discrimination. Talking about gender discrimination, you need to promote women empowerment. You need to put women in the forefront. So which means you need to stop paying men more salary than the men, and than the women, and you say you're just a woman, you don't need money. But most women actually are the breadwinners in South African economy. So the business should prevent what? Gender discrimination. So if there's an opportunity, if there's any post, if there's any position, if the woman is qualified, the woman can fill in that position. So the business needs to promote equity in the workplace. They need to promote inclusivity, and they need to prevent gender discrimination. And lastly, the business needs to prevent discrimination against people with disability. Remember, I said there must be inclusivity in the workplace. In as much your disability is not going to impact on your job, people need to be employed, because people with disability have got life. People with disability have got kids. They've got family to feed. They also need to be included in the workplace so that they can have good standard of living. So if it's a teacher, maybe the teacher is just limping or is just disabled and is not affecting, it's not all about the site or the teaching, that kind of person needs to be employed. So people with disability needs to be employed in as much is not going to impact on the kind of job they're going to carry out. So you see a lot of broadcasters, you see them on a wheelchair. in as much they know what they're doing, in as much they can work and carry out their responsibility, they need to be employed in the workplace. So that is the aim of inclusivity for the business. So tomorrow we will continue from page 17, and I will be looking at effort to create an inclusive workforce. And and tomorrow we'll talk about more socioeconomic issues, and we're going to look at solutions to others socioeconomic issues. I think we will finish on today. We're stopping at page 16. So tomorrow we'll look at page 17, 18, and 19 by God's willing. Thank you.